This is Thursday Thoughts for August the 21st, 2025, here on Following Him, the Disciple Life. In the New Testament, we have the synagogue. Now, the word synagogue could be used to refer to a building, a place where the local community of faithful believers, the practitioners of Judaism, would meet to worship and study, and was kind of a center of the community. It also could be used to refer to the actual congregation of believers, to the Jews that would meet at the synagogue. You had to have at least 10 Jewish men in order to form a synagogue, but that group that met there could be referred to as a synagogue. So in that sense, the Greek word that we often translate as church, ecclesia, could also apply to the congregation that met at the local synagogue. That ecclesia could apply to the synagogue that met at the synagogue. In fact, in Matthew 18:17, even though in that verse the word ecclesia is commonly translated as church, it's probably better translated as congregation, because it is a reference to the local synagogue, to the group that met at the local synagogue. Now, there's another word that would have a connection to the Jewish community, but to a smaller group. And that is the word, well, it's a word that you have heard recently. We talked about yesterday on Wednesday Words. That is the word disciple. Now, the word disciple, as we talked about yesterday, a follower, a learner, an imitator of a rabbi. Well, there could be a general sense where one might apply that to, just anybody that is learning, but it was used in a specific sense in the Jewish culture of the time to refer to this follower, learner, imitator of a rabbi. You had the disciple that was following, that was the student of, the learner of, the imitator of a rabbi. Now, this was a smaller group. Not everybody got the privilege of studying under a rabbi. This was from the upper echelons of their educational system. Not everybody, all the Jewish males would go to synagogue school, but not all of them would get to go to the next levels, much less get to be a disciple. Now, here's the thing. When Jesus gave the Great Commission, what did he say? Did he say, go make synagogues out of all the nations, or go make disciples of all the nations? Now, it is true that as you make disciples, that naturally congregations do form, and we do see that there in Acts 11:26, for example, you have the church, the congregation. That word is used interchangeably with the disciples. So yes, the disciples together form a congregation, but the focus was not on this group that pretty much everybody in the Jewish community would belong to, unless they had the fellowship of the synagogue removed from them. And that is something that would happen sometimes if they were, in a life of sin, this sort of thing. But in general, everybody would belong to that. But this disciple, not everybody got to be a disciple, but under the new covenant system, they make disciples. Now, what's the point? The Christian is more than just a church member, a congregation member. You're supposed to be a learner, a follower, an imitator of the rabbi, Christ. Jesus, when he gave the Great Commission, he did not say, go set up synagogues among all the nations. Now, yes, naturally congregations do form, but he said, go make disciples. Those that are not just going to meet together a couple times a week to worship, although that's part of it, but those that are going to learn and grow. Those that are going to be like these disciples he was speaking to with the Great Commission, that they were going to be committed to him and follow him and do their best to become just like him. Thank you for being with me today. You have a great one, and shalom.